and welcome to the Konvergent video series for the week of October 5th. Top 3 things we're going to cover on the video this week. First, the markets were up on stimulus hopes. 2, we're going to touch on the monthly employment data and some other economic data points. And 3, we're going to touch on the big headlines for the week with Trump's COVID diagnosis and its impact on the markets. Before we jump into data though for the week, I hope you all had a great weekend. I was able to spend a lot of time this weekend reading before the Seahawks game on Sunday, 4-0. Great start to the year for us on that. But I was able to finally finish the book, The Fourth Turning by Neil Howe, that I've talked about a number of times on the videos and blogs and to a lot of you individually. And it's a history book on the generational changes, mostly here in the United States. And it's been, eerily, amazing how much they've been able to predict the societal changes that would happen over the last 20 years, as the book was written in 1997. And even most eerily predictive was that they thought 2020 might be the year where the crisis for this 80 to 100 year cycle might happen. So a lot more to come on that in the coming weeks. I'll probably write at least one blog post on that here in the near future, so more to come there. So on to the data for the week. The markets were up just over 1.5% on the week, up a lot more early in the week on hopes of the next stimulus package. But then we got the news late Thursday night of Trump's diagnosis, and we saw shockwaves hit the markets late Thursday night, early Friday morning, but still overall finished positive on the week. 2, on the economic data front, we're going to touch on first, let's touch the weekly claims as we've been doing pretty consistently here. So first, on new claims for unemployment, pretty much the same as last week between the new state claims and new pandemic claims. We're still right around 1.5 million of new claims for unemployment last week. We did see some positive news on the continuing claims, dropping now down just below 12 million, but we did see a rise in the total claims to be just right around 26.5 million. So overall, pretty stagnant data overall, and not really showing any signs of major improvement there. We did get the monthly jobs report released on Friday last week, and there we saw the unemployment rate tick down just to below 8% to 7.9%. But the jobs growth of just around 650,000 was well below expectations, and is starting to show that we're not really at the same K-shaped recovery, or the V-shaped recovery we were hoping for, and more. We'll talk more about this K-shaped recovery in the near future that we're really starting to begin to see. But overall, kind of this flattening out of the positive growth trends we were seeing earlier in the summer. On to some other economic data points which are showing similar things as the unemployment reports, which is the manufacturing report. So it was another positive number on the week last week on the report. However, similarly, we're starting to see that number level off and even start to go back down again, much like the other economic data points we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks. We did see one positive news release last week, though, which was consumer sentiment. It did tick up to the highest levels we've seen since the pandemic began. So that is at least one area of positive news on the economic data front. But really the big headlines of the week last week were late in the week with Trump's diagnosis of COVID-19 and ultimately his move into the hospital for precautionary reasons. Obviously, I'm sure all of you were able to get the headlines all weekend over his treatment and everything that happened, so we don't need to discuss any of that here, other than to know that obviously for obvious reasons the president's health is going to have a major impact on the market. So we saw a big drop off late in the week initially with his diagnosis, but we've seen early this week the markets respond back very positively, as it appears that his prognosis is decent and he could be released from the hospital early this week. But while we were watching that, we have also been paying very close attention to the total COVID cases across the country, and we are seeing a rise again in COVID cases as we head into cold and flu season, even to the point where some major cities are beginning to discuss shutdowns of non-essential businesses again, which might be important for health reasons, but could be devastating for those small businesses that have been hanging on by a thread, even if they're still open at all. So the stimulus package that they've been discussing is going to be important to know exactly what is going to be in there to see if that is ultimately going to be able to soften the blow. So bottom line for the week, lots of mixed results as we've been seeing over the last couple of months. Positive stimulus talks driving the markets higher, but COVID's Trump diagnosis along with weakening economic data, and now we're less than a month away from the election, so lots of volatility likely to come here in the next month. So with that, just as we've been recently, I think it's still important to have a cautionary approach to what we're going to see in the next month or so. So with that, as always, if you have any individual questions on your situation, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we hope you have a great week, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon.